Okay, Julie, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Good. Everyone can see me? Hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Good afternoon, morning, evening to everyone, depending on from where you're joining us. I'm really glad that so many of you could make it here today for this introductory session to the EU-WOP program and its call for proposals. I'm Julie Perkins. I'm heading the Global Water Operators Partnerships Alliance, the program of EU-WOP that is managing this, this initiative. And I am going to tell you about this session. Let me just minimize here. I'm happy that so many of you are able to come to hear about this really exciting program. Before we begin, let me just give you some information about the technology here. This and the way we've set up this webinar. It's going to be in English only. In previous sessions, we've had French and Spanish translation. We won't be doing that this time, but there will be other sessions that are currently being sort of finalized where we will offer this questions and the same kind of opportunity to those who are more comfortable operating in French and Spanish. In addition to that, there will be some opportunities you hear about later that if you're a network organization and you can gather a bunch of organizations together that would be interested in knowing more about the program and how to apply to it, then we can actually offer a dedicated session for you tailored to your group. This will also be recorded for your information, but the best sort of source for the full information is in our frequently asked questions section of our web page, where we will be trying to provide a full formal written response to the questions, the most commonly asked questions, let's say, that come up in this session. For the questions that you'll be asking, please use the question and answer tab. You'll see the little, it's up where your taskbar is, the little question Q&A area rather than the chat box, because the chat box is what the question and answer section allows you to do is to vote up questions, so people can then read through and say, oh yeah, that question interests me. And just give it a little thumbs up, which helps us prioritize the questions that are coming up. And if you have technical difficulties, please reach out to the host here, and he can maybe help you with something. Just send a private message to the host or put it in the chat box. Next slide, just to give an overview of this session program. We have set aside like an hour and a half for this session, but we are happy to carry on up to 2 hours if there are questions that we can continue to reply to until that time, until what would that be, 3:30 Central European time. The program is really simple. I'm going to give an overview of the program and its call for proposals, with a little break in the middle to kind of make sure that there are no questions up to that point. Then my colleague Elisa will just give a little information also on additional information. And then the rest of the session is just question and answer. So we will be reading questions from the question and answer box. We will try to make it a little more interactive by giving you the opportunity to read out your own question if you like. So you can like brush your hair and make yourself camera ready if you want to do that. And my colleagues will see if you would like to get online to open the question, to answer the question, to ask the question, more like it. And that's the program. So the objectives today are, as I said, to introduce this program and to encourage a strong reply to the call. We're really, what's exciting about this program is that we've set it up in a way where to encourage newcomers to get on board. We would really like to increase the number of operators who are and the supporting partners who can participate in this kind of partnership in this time around, but also beyond the call. So we are really wanting to make this something that you are feeling comfortable about and interested in engaging in, and making it kind of as easy as possible for newcomers to do so. So that is one of the objectives, just to give you an overview of that and help sort of just go through those call documents for those who have read them. We're going to identify the common questions. As I say, we won't be able to answer probably all of them because we just may not have time. Maybe we will. But also any kind of keys or challenges that may be common to several of you about how to apply to this, like for example, how to find, a partner, or some specific question about the forms, this kind of thing. I should mention here that we're focused in this session on the phase 1 application. So this is, as you would know if you've looked at the documents, there are 2 phases of this call for proposals. The first phase is for 3 months, and this is really focused on how to do that phase. And then we'll, of course, try to respond to the questions that we can, but we'll also explain to you where you can get further information, so to questions that were unanswered, specific questions that relate to the very specific nature of your organization or your partnership or things like that, that you don't think that will be so relevant to other organizations. You can, we will maybe save them for outside of this session, and we can reply also by email to that. But we'll also tell you a little bit more about where you can get more information about the other webinars that are coming up, and help with things about knowing more about water operators partnerships in general, and ways that you can connect with potential partners in this. Okay, so before we start into the program, the specifics of the EU-WOP program, just a kind of basic introduction to water operators partnerships in general. These are, let me just take the time to read through the definition. So we're saying these are not-for-profit partnerships between 2 or more water and sanitation service providers who are peer operators, and they're carried out in order to strengthen capacity and performance to sustainably provide services to all. The highlighted words are the key sort of added value word aspects of WOPs. The not-for-profit component is very important. This is that they're not carried out for profit making, but also not with the idea of doing contracts down the road. This is more, this is a solidarity-based effort. And these are between peer operators. So the idea is very much that these are people who see eye to eye. They can talk the same talk, technical, and other kinds of knowledge that they have, even though their contexts may differ greatly. And there's a strong focus in WOPs on capacity development. So the ultimate goal is improved performance for better services, but capacity is the way there. So we're working on helping, not just coming in, getting the job done and then going out again, but really working with the local beneficiary operator to strengthen their capacity for the long term, or as much as possible within the frame of this. But it's this is what stands out about WOPs. And what we know is that we've had experienced WOPs are not new; they've been around for a while, and we have about 400 of them on record. GWOPA as a database where we're trying to track as many of them as possible, and they have really demonstrated themselves as being relatively cost effective, and strong in supporting utilities to get the skills and know-how that they need to make the technical, managerial and financial improvements, notably that are essential for extending service, improving and extending service provision to all. Just briefly about GWOPA. So we are a UN initiative that is run out of UN-Habitat, and we support WOPs. It's a global initiative. We support WOPs and public operators and the peer support between them. We operate as a sort of global umbrella program. It's a network that open to all parties that are interested in in engaging and or supporting this kind of partnership and not-for-profit knowledge sharing and peer support. And we act in active partnership with many organizations and networks who are doing the same thing. Many of you know are here today probably thanks to an association or a WOP platform that you work with. So they're really critical in everything that we do. So that's enough about us and WOPs. So the EU-WOP program did not come, out of thin air. It took a couple of years to develop it, and many years before that, and kind of thinking about this and working with the EU. Just a few kind of key inputs that helped us come to the point of this package of guidance that you have seen. Where does that come from? It brings together, first of all, a lot of understanding about how these partnerships can and should work, notably from a prior EU program called the EU-ACP Partnership Program. So it draws a lot of lessons from that, but also work that GWOPA has done from, studying other WOPs, WOP programs, and the guidance and tools we've developed on that. And of course, it's based strongly in the sort of basic principles of WOPs that I mentioned earlier. Of course, this is a EU-funded program, and so it's based strongly in the EU as well as UN because of UN-Habitat's management of the program, policy frameworks and procedures, and it's framed, of course, by our institutional rules. For example, which countries can benefit from that is defined by the EU, but most of the rules in this program are defined by UN-Habitat and the kind of partnership rules that we have, frames that we have for that. So that explains a lot of what you have seen, and it was crafted with the support of a lot of colleagues internally who, with their financial, legal, partnership kind of expertise, who helped, design the program. And then, of course, it's gone through quite a lot of consultation externally with a consultative group of utilities. There's a big workshop in Brussels in September 2019 when we could get together as one. And then it's gone through a few targeted reviews to make sure that it's kind of reasonably accessible to different parties. So this is what we're looking at today. This is what the call package looks like. It's available in English, French, and Spanish. And this is where you can find it. The address is under the image there. You can also go to the GWOPA website, EU-WOPs, and it'll link you also to the call documents. But if you don't have them, please open them up now and kindly put them in front of you and use them as a reference. This is the content of the guidelines that we presented, and this is what I'll be going through reasonably quickly today. Okay, so the objectives, the context, of course, for this program is that, as we probably all are keenly aware, there's a major water and sanitation access challenge in the world. This is, the question of access, but also, sustainable management. The new UN Sustainable Development Goal that relates to water recognizes that, it's not just about providing a connection, but it's also about managing well the services and also the natural resources upstream and downstream of water and sanitation services. So there's a major need there, and public operators, which still provide the vast majority of water and sanitation services around the world, are in many cases in need of significant support, and they have an important impact on all of the Sustainable Development Goal 6 targets. That relate to not just access, but also water use efficiency, relate to water, wastewater management, and other considerations. So they have a really key role. And on the other hand, there's this opportunity in the utilities around the world, and there are many in Europe who are very keen, capable, and experienced, and have the potential to support their peers in making improvements. And the experience shows that WOPs can be really effective in that. WOPs also, this model also builds very much on EU commitments and orientations in recent years towards engaging more EU partners, making linkages with finance, and moving towards partnerships, also supporting local employment, Green Deal, and of course, underlying many of these sustainable development goals are these access to sustainable water and sanitation services. And then, if I can say it as an opportunity, but I think there's a GWOPA was available to manage this program, which is kind of this neutral, a global and neutral broker for these partnerships, and can play this neutral role in promoting WOPs, but also managing this program, and can support with tools and networks to make it happen. So let me move on to the overview of the program. So this is, sorry about that animation there. Okay, so this is a 4-year program that is funded by DevCo and implemented by UN-Habitat. And we are currently in this first phase here, in the first green strip of the call process and WOP establishment, where we are identifying projects to be funded. There is a possibility of funding up to 30 partnerships with between 250 and 450,000 US dollars each. And they will run for 36 months, and then there will be a closing period. It's worth noting, and I'm not going to get into this today, but I just want to raise it so that you're aware of it, that there are some program-wide elements. So the idea is not just to have completely isolated independent WOP projects, but there are a number of things that will connect the projects as they go along in a wider programmatic approach. So this includes some of the communication activities, community knowledge management, so some opportunities to really learn not only from your mentor and mentee, but also from other programs that are going on, some sort of thematic exchange on these kinds of things, and also some support to the wider environment, also links with the financiers and others that are envisaged between. But there will be more detail on this in the phase 2. It's just something that will be a small component, an important component of the program, the wider program. And there will be evaluations, 2 evaluations, a midterm and a final program evaluation that will dip into a few of the different projects to study them a little bit further. So just to be aware of those things that will touch all programs. Okay, the objectives of the EU-WOP program. Okay, the overarching objective is to increase access to water and sanitation. It's the SDG 6 goal, basically increase access for drinking water and sanitation services within beneficiary partner areas. However, it's not exclusively to just go in there and provide access. We know that we can provide access pretty quickly. What's the challenge is that sustaining that improved access. So the real emphasis is on improving the operational, financial, social, environmental capacity and performance of these beneficiary operators. So this is the second major objective. And then providing additional finance for water and sanitation infrastructure improvement. So this comes across in two ways. One is through the counterpart support that is raised through this program. So in the WOP programs, we want them to also, as much as possible, mobilize other funders to be involved. But we also want them to leverage, where possible, investment finance, particularly the second window, which I'll tell you about in a second. We want, this capacity development momentum to lead to or connect with in some way possibilities for financing. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we want through this program to strengthen the ability to do this kind of partnership in the longer term. Okay, so it's strengthening the ability for utilities to actually support one another. It means that this is why we're inviting new, we're not just making this for expert WOPers, but we want to engage with those operators who might be new in this, in supporting one another. And there are a few different constellations that might make that easier to do, including co-mentoring, which I'll get to in a moment. But this is also to engage with other parties that might be able to support in some way or another, which may include others that make WOPs possible, like donors, governments, and regulators, specific agencies, local agencies, different things like that. As I mentioned, there are two funding windows. They're very similar. They differ not very much. They differ only in the extent of maturity and the age of the partnership. There is one, the window one is for emerging WOPs, which have less than 1 year of partnership history. And they have no previous partnership history is required. It's not just that you have to have between 0 and 1, you don't have to have any. And these are meant to be kind of more initial WOP projects, and the expected results are understood to be a little lesser than what we might see from the others. In window 2, we are building on WOPs that have already begun or were recently concluded, trying to build on successes that have already been have already happened in those projects, and specifically to accompany as much as possible towards investment finance. Now, this is not to say that window 1 is not, where we're not trying to make those linkages as well, but in window 2, there's more emphasis on that financial linking consideration. All right, I want to just show you the little animation about, okay, what are the what are we talking about here? So we start with a beneficiary partner, or what we generally call a mentor utility. So this is the utility that has some sort of need to be supported, would like to improve. They're showing demand for that. They have some sort of sense of where they want to go, and they're looking, for a partner. Then there's a lead partner, who is the utility that will mentor. I'm sorry. Excuse me. This should read Mentee. The beneficiary partner should read Mentee. Sorry for the confusion. The blue guy is Mentee. So then there's a mentor organization, which is supporting. Now, those who have been involved in WOPs know that WOPs are not just this one-way street. There's learning that goes in both directions. But in this program, we identify, a mentor that has, that is tending to be more giving of their knowledge and expertise towards the mentee that is requiring support. So that's the sort of basic setup of a WOP. In the EU-WOP, the constellations that are possible are this simple formula. So having a beneficiary mentee and a lead partner mentor, that's the simple basic. So that works as it is. But we can also have additional partners. So this can be a co-mentor, so an additional mentor partner who is supporting, maybe who is new to WOPs and who wants to serve as a mentor but doesn't quite know how, and maybe they can team up with another lead partner. It can be a facilitator. So there, in some cases there are organizations that can really help kind of help plan and connect and do different things that that it would be hard for the utility partners to do on their own. It can include donors and financiers. So, I mean, they don't need to be actively involved throughout the whole program. That's not the idea, but they're associated with the program in the sense that they are going to be trying to link their finance with this project. There are different ways that donors and financiers can participate there. And it could also be different kinds of local partners. So it could be, the workers union. It could be the urban planning department in the city. I mean, different things that can strengthen, that link to what the WOP is about, and that will strengthen its impact. So those partners are also welcome. Now, the rules say that we can have up to 5 beneficiary partners per WOP. I don't personally recommend that you go to so much, but you can have that many. Usually they're 1-to-1, they can be 1-to-2, etc. But in this case, we have up to 5. And we can also have additional partners up to 5 with a maximum of 2 co-mentors per project. So these co-mentor, these guys here with the, they can also participate. Up to 5. So this, you might have 1 facilitator, a donor, another mentor, and a local partner, something like that. Okay, sorry, let me stop there. Let's take a break and just see if people are following and they have any questions at this point. Please don't ask me really hard ones right now. Just stop for a second. Okay.
Yeah, Julie, if I can just maybe jump in and summarize some of the questions from the question and answer. From Zinat, do both mentor and mentee have to be utilities, is a question. Yes,
they do. They have to be service providers. They can also be, they have to be utilities. They're, as it's stated in the rules, they need to be water and sanitation service providers. And perhaps one of my colleagues can actually read out the actual definition, but they both need to be water and sanitation service providers. They might be, they have to be, they might be government owned, so it might be the municipality itself that is applying, but it's the water and sanitation service providers that are the partners in this. Yeah.
And also, Gerdian, sorry for the pronunciation. What is the definition of improved in Objective 2? I guess some people may not be familiar with what that concept means. So,
okay, what is the way this is?
I think it's improved access was the term.
In Objective 2. Sorry. Let me go back here a second. Improved operational, financial, social, capacity and performance. So we want to see interannual improvements on different criteria. So once the projects start, or before they start, we'll be identifying the areas of targeted improvement and the ways in which those will be measured. So they will be, one way for measuring performance tends to be, KPIs, particular, performance improvements, where we might see some changes in these different areas. And then we'll also be monitoring using a monitoring tool of GWOPA, which also monitors capacity developments within these partnerships. So there are different ways that will also be monitored. So this is before, for instance, you see an improvement in non-revenue water reduction. You might already have some capacity improvements that have taken place, and those can be noted also within that reporting, that monitoring framework. Hope that helps answer that one.
Okay, so there's quite a lot now, but I think some of them will be answered later in the presentation. But I see a very good question from Lauren about window 1 and window 2.
Yeah.
If a project is not considered, or it's considered insufficient for window 2, can it then be considered for window 1? You know, if it's maybe not mature enough, is that possible? I guess this is quite a difficult question, but any initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, well, I think let me say, go back to that one too. Let's see, boop, boop. There we go. So maturity is not, it's not like a subjective thing. It's based on the time of the partnership, the duration. So that's where we're kind of, we're saying if it's under 1 year, then it's new or emerging. If it's over 1 year, then it's mature. Of course, we understand that it could be over 1 year and not very mature. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's the arbitrary kind of distinction that we're making between the two windows.
Okay, yeah, like I said, there's lots more questions, but I suggest we keep moving, and when we get to the end, we can come back.
Okay, let me scoot along here. Oh no, did I go here yet? No, not yet. Oh yeah. Okay, so now we're looking at the project setup. So we've gone through the different possibilities. Oh, sorry, on this slide, I would like to mention the fact that this is the mentor partner. Oh, okay, the mentee partner, the beneficiary partner, has to be from what is called a DCI country. So these are the countries that the EU have identified as eligible for receiving support through their mechanisms. But the lead partner can also come from a DCI country, or they can come from Europe. So there's a small list of those who cannot be mentors. There are ones that are not from Europe, like from Canada or Australia or Switzerland, but they are not, they can also be from the South. Those lead partners, that's very important to note, is that they can be, you know, you can be a lead mentor and be from, you know, whatever country. I mean, there are many strong mentor utilities in southern countries, and these are also encouraged. And you could also have a setup where you have a south, you know, south, north, south, or such a thing like that, where an additional partner is from the south. So different constellations are possible. Okay, the questions are, I just see the number rising like crazy over there. Okay, so we have, this is just an overview of the project setup. So once you know, your project has been identified as fundable, we're going to work with you. There will be 2 types of agreements that we will put into place. The first one is between UN-Habitat and the lead partner. So this is the mechanism. It's called an agreement of cooperation, and it's the mechanism for us to give the lead partner all the grant funding for the project. This will be distributed in biannual, annual installments, one at the onset, and then the years that follow, with a final smaller installment at the end once everything has been accounted for. There will be biannual progress reports and annual reports. Full narrative and financial reports required from those lead partners. So that's the agreement of cooperation, and I can provide more information on what those look like later, but they are, what we're doing through this call process is we are trying to request, not in phase 1, but in phase 2, request the background information, the supporting information and documentation required to, you know, to facilitate the establishment of these agreements. So it's not like we go through the whole process and then at the end, now we have to get all the papers together. We're trying to smooth that so that it sort of leads into the end result. So just to let you know, we're trying to make that as smooth as possible. It'll still take a little bit of time to get in place. Then the other type of agreement that is necessary for each WOP project is the document that defines the relationship between the partners. So this is what's going to happen between the lead partner, the beneficiary partner, and the different additional partners. What roles are they going to play? How are they going to contribute, and so on. This generally takes the form of an MOU. For existing WOPs, they probably already exist, and they would be amended to make space for this new project component of new funding, this new set of activities. And we have also templates that you can use for that. They tend not to be financial agreements. The financial agreements happen usually separately. So if you look at this, the graphic here, we have a dotted line. So UN-Habitat to the lead partner. Okay, of course we've got to give money because that's the part of the point of that relationship. But then for the additional partners, it depends on the type of partners and the role they're going to play. They can potentially be eligible for transfers under that agreement. Okay. The beneficiary partner is not eligible for transfers. They benefit from the partnership, and they participate in the partnership fully, but they're basically getting supported with excellent high quality capacity from a partner for low cost, but they're not benefiting financially from the agreement. Okay, lots of information there. I'm sure lots of more questions have been added on that as well. So we're looking at, okay, what kinds of projects are eligible here? Okay, these must be water operators partnerships. So as I just defined them earlier, between two or more peer operators. And you know, going towards the objectives that were laid out in the definition I provided. These can be north, south, or triangular, as I mentioned. There are a variety of different constellations possible, as I showed you in that animation. Starting with the simple pair, north pair between a mentor and a mentee. That's also a valid setup. And they must be compliant with the code of conduct, which essentially commits the partners to adhering to the principles of WOPs, which is not for profit, and other basic good practices of partnerships. The themes that are eligible are quite open. This is just a short list here, but they're essentially supporting working areas of water utilities that will help them improve their operational, financial, social, or environmental capacity. Sometimes they might be working on 2 or 3 or 4 of those different areas, but those are the kind of guiding terms, let's say, about the type of support that one utility could be providing another. Okay. And they can relate. I mean, you might be improving energy efficiency, okay, but in some ways you're making also a link with the the Sustainable Development Goals, which which are listed also in the form, so you can help that facilitates your linking of those of the actual work that's being done and the SDG objectives. The types of activities are quite open. Please don't use this as your ultimate list. Go to the documents, provide a little more information about what is eligible. It's quite open. The activities are, might include and generally include, diagnosis and benchmarking. Of course, generally a lot of training. This can take various different forms. So, classroom, a lot of usually on the job training. There's exposure kinds of visits. And of course, these days, everything is happening online. So that's another major thrust of the activities. Studies, planning, implementation. So it could be about planning together, an performance improvement plan, investment plan, and then putting work together. I'll cut through there, but what I want to emphasize is that this is doing with and not for. So it's very critical in just in conceiving of what this project is about is that it's really, the activities are really about, okay, how do we work together to build capacity for longer term to do these things. So it's not just like CHOP, I fly in, I do this thing, and then I go out again. It's really about, okay, we're supporting so that the capacity is there for the long term. Okay, the partner eligibility. This sums up what I shared with you in the animation. So lead partners are water and sanitation service providers that are either a government body or publicly owned, okay? And they're registered and operating in a European or DCI approved country. So those are the ones listed in the Annex D, I think it is, of the guidelines. They must be playing the role of a mentor here, and they will act as the grant manager for the WOP project. They're the ones who enter into the agreement with UN-Habitat. And so as such, they must possess the financial and technical capacity to manage that project and to administer its funds. So that's part of the phase 1 application process, is to elaborate a bit on how that would be managed, and to just assure that you know, you have the means to do this transfer, that transfer, and that this type of payment or procurement or whatever need be done. Beneficiary partners, these are the focus of the improvements. Between 1 and 5 of them are possible. They have the same kind of status as the lead partners, but playing the role of mentee. And again, I apologize really in advance for the simplification here. It's a bit black and white, this mentee mentor thing. We know that things go back and forth. There's really a lot more, there's a lot more learning in the lead partner organization than is ever anticipated, but still, this is the way they get called in the end, for lack of a better definition for the time being. And they must be strongly involved in co-creation. So I put this little graphic here of the people with their minds working together. That's to be remembered. That's really, you know, this idea of that, you know, it's not just, please don't be a lead partner and just whip up an application, but do this really in strong collaboration with the beneficiary partner. Ideally, they even take the lead, you know, in this. It's really co-creation. And it must be pointed out that the beneficiary partners must endorse this proposal even in phase 1. It's the only, in addition to the application form, it's the only additional requirement in the first phase. It's very important that the beneficiary partners are engaged. Sorry, I went back too quickly. And then additional partners, so they, like all partners in the WOP, I should have mentioned, are operating on a not-for-profit basis. That's part of the rules. However, some organizations are able to recover their costs, and some of the additional partners, depending on their status, are able to also recover staff time costs. And they also must be registered in the EU or a DCI approved country. They may play different kinds of roles that are useful there. So they might be, as I said, a co-mentor, facilitator, an association, a donor that's playing a useful role in this. So I would really not encourage. I mean, if you're you know, an NGO who's looking at this this possibility, you know, recall that you wouldn't be taking the lead. You could help to mobilize. You could play a big role in helping to mobilize and motivate operators to participate in this. And then you would play, you know, be playing a supporting role in a you know, in a meaningful way. So the financial rules, I mean, there's a lot more information about this in the documents. I won't go into great detail, but we need to ask between 250 and 450,000 US dollars per project, sorry, program, per project. It's the same amount for both windows. It varies from, and this is depending on how much is needed. Counter funding is not required, but it's strongly encouraged. However, it is required from beneficiary partners. Now, some people ask, why would a beneficiary partner, that's their beneficiary, they're not, that shouldn't be counted as a contribution, but they're a partner in this and they're putting in their time and energy, and they're very much a co-contributor. So beneficiary partner time should be accounted for as a contribution to the projects. The staff time of lead partners and eligible additional partners, so those with non-profit or public status, can be compensated for if necessary. In many cases, it's not at all necessary, and it would be a boon to the proposal if it could be contributed in kind, counterpart. However, it's not necessary in cases where that is not possible for the utility to do. There's the question of transfers. So to those eligible partners, the maximum each additional partner can receive is 100,000, and the total amount is no more than 60% of the total amount received from UN-Habitat from the EU. So the lead partner has to retain at least 40% in order to do some of the other expenses. I won't get into the detail. I mean, this gets a bit sticky. I mean, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about this. I have 36 questions already. Wow, that's a lot. And I'm sure there'll be even more regarding the financial stuff. But hopefully most of the questions are answered in the documents if you look closely. Equipment. So a main thing is WOP logistics. This is about travel, food, and lodging, which is not happening much these days. So there's a bit of a, you can see what we can do without travel. I think reducing travel is a good idea for many reasons, besides COVID. But still, when possible, there would ideally be a little bit of travel to visit the partner utilities. Equipment this is not an infrastructure project, obviously, but equipment is an eligible expense. So small hardware and software that are required specifically in support of the WOP and the capacity development and performance improvement activities. Those are eligible expenses under this, but there are limits to that. And then there are contractual services, outsourced services. So there's private parties may be engaged up to these limits. The whole idea of WOPs, of course, is for not-for-profit knowledge sharing, etc. But of course, there may be capacity specific roles, tasks that cannot be accomplished by those parties alone. So in that case, they can be contracted out within the limits identified. All right, I don't know how long I'm taking here. I'm trying not to be too long. Okay, I'll wrap up. So the application process has two phases, as I mentioned, and we're talking here mostly about phase 1. The deadline for proposals is the 15th of April. The last day for submitting questions that we may be able to answer questions after this, but that we pledge to be able to respond to questions is the 15th of March. So please get your questions out and get looking at the documents early so that you don't run up against a barrier at the end. The selection committee will then review and do an assessment of these documents and reply by the 1st of May. The second phase is another matter that would have a response by the end of July, and hopefully getting all of the agreements up and running by September. If there are any modifications to this timeline that are required, for example, if we find that we have 100 requests for extension, or there's for some other reason, then those changes will be notified on our website and through our social media and things like that. So we strongly recommend that you sign up for those kinds of announcements and so on. Oh, I should note that proposals are accepted in English, French, and Spanish. However, this is only for the proposal period. Once the projects start, they would have to, the reporting would have to be done in English. Unfortunately, we just don't have the capacity to manage more. However, it's an eligible expense, the translation of reports, of course, at a reasonable cost. The evaluation and selection process, so this is just what's going to happen within UN-Habitat in the month of April. We're going to get the applications, sort them out, screen them for eligibility. Okay, do they have the right format and partner constellations? Are all these things eligible? And we'll review and evaluate, rank them, and then have an overview to select the most promising of these projects, and then inform the successful applications. What is very important to know is that we're attempting to reduce the number of proposals after the first round. So we're not going to accept anything that just meets the minimum standard. We're going to reduce the number so that we don't needlessly engage a lot of partners into it in a second round that will not be fruitful. That said, there's still a competitive element in the second phase, so it's important that everybody's on board for that as well. But it's just saying, put most of your eggs in the phase 1 basket at this point. Okay. Anything else I wanted to say there? Yeah, so the evaluation criteria is listed in the annex, and it corresponds with the different aspects of the form. There's different weighting per phase. So the first phase partnership arrangements are more important, whereas in the second phase we figure that they will not be changed. So that's ranked. So there's a bit of a distinction between the way they're weighted throughout. Now, they add up to 100, but there's also a component in the evaluation criteria for other considerations. And this should be noted as being kind of tie-breaking material. So if all other things being equal, these criteria will enter into effect to kind of to figure out who leaps ahead. Okay, we're almost done this presentation. So when we're preparing the application, it's recommended that you take into account both the questions, the guiding questions that are there in each of the in the application form, and the evaluation criteria in the annex. So just take a look at both. They kind of complement one another, and it gives you some sort of clues about what is being looked at and evaluated. The selection task force, just a little bit more information about who is going to be evaluating these within UN-Habitat. This is a team, a neutral team. Very few will actually know that much about WOPs, but they will be following the guidelines that are set out. And they come from different parts of the organization that have expertise in the legal, financial, and partnerships thematic areas of the organization. And there will be oversight from the European Commission. So what was formerly DevCo and is now called INTPA will be there as observers. Everyone has to ensure that there's no conflict of interest. And the role of this task force has also been to help ensure that, as I said, that there's a smooth transition from the application and selection process into the setup of those partnership agreements. And they will also support in the vetting of the partners and the establishment of the AOCs. Okay, just a few little slightly random tips for applying. I think your best bet is to read carefully the documents, but a few tips here are read through the documents early so you really know what is needed and desired and are not running up against realizing you need something at the last minute. Identify partners as soon as you can, of course, because this is, as much as possible, it's a kind of co-created initiative. So it's good to be thinking together with those eventual partners about what this project could look like. We recognize that it's early days, so some utilities, some of the applicants are new to this process. They don't know so much about what this is going to look like. The exercise is not so much about coming up with a really, really detailed program at this point when you don't really have your full sense of what's happening within the utility, but to start to get a sense there and think about things together. And the engagement of the beneficiary is key. Please do really embrace the WOPs approach. Don't try to throw in a different, a partnership that's not into this proposal process. I mean, really think about those things and how they could add value to the project. How are you really focusing on capacity development? How can you really use co-creation? And how can you link with finance? And connecting with the ongoing activities of the beneficiary operator. So rather than just ignoring everything else that's going on, but saying, okay, yeah, well, we've got this, we've got this restructuring that's happening and this investment project coming up, and we've got this new mandate to do this and that. Think about those things and draw them in and make use of them, particularly financial linking opportunities. As much as you can, realistically address COVID. Nobody knows really what is going to happen, but don't put most of your budget on travel because it's probably going to be reduced. Please do think about how you can live with reduced travel, and then embrace sustainability and human rights considerations as much as you possibly can in a real way. Thank you and good luck. And now Elisa will give a little introduction to where you can get a little more information. Or actually, maybe we should stop there and take a few questions, and then she can go back to. Yeah.
Julie, just maybe a couple of clarifications from the question and answer box. Some people are asking if the WOP has to address one thematic area or it can address several.
Several. Sorry about that. It can definitely address several. There's not a limit there. Yeah.
And there's a few questions about eligible countries and whether the partnership can be within one country, the WOP partnership, or across several countries. So maybe just to clarify for everyone there. So if the mentor-mentee have to be in the same country, or if they can be in the same country, or if they have to be in different countries.
Well, that's a tricky one, actually. I can't say that I think I might need to consult on that one. I mean, the idea is that this is international development funding, so so one partner to another. I think we have to do a little checking on that one before we can respond clearly. My thought would be that probably like a north-south-south arrangement might be more possible than just a purely south-south within the same country. So let's look into that possibility.
Okay, and the last kind of, I would say, general recurring question is about eligibility of mentors and maybe the definition of public and private and who is eligible under what context to be the lead partner.
Yeah. So as those of you who have been involved in GWOPA or in WOPs in the past know, I mean, the WOPs are open to the private sector mentors. I mean, as long as things are done on a not-for-profit basis, then they're very open. In this particular project, we have a limitation. We have to use a mechanism, a partnership mechanism, a UN-Habitat partnership mechanism. It's called a cooperation agreement. And for that, we cannot work with private partners. So there was a question about what is the definition of a public partner. And I think it is clarified in the document that it means majority public. I mean, the majority of those public operators are entirely public. But the definition, the operating definition for this case is over 50% publicly owned. So I hope that maybe answers. Maybe I'll have to read the question to get more of a sense of what was behind it. But and it's maybe something we can try to articulate a little more clearly in the FAQ as well.
Okay, well, I suggest we go to Elisa, and maybe Julie, you'll have some time to look at the questions, and and we have lots of time after to answer. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. This is Elisa Bernal from the communications team of GWOPA. Thank you very much for participating. We're very glad to see so many participants and so many people and organizations interested in this call. What I'm going to do now, very briefly, just to give the floor to all the questions, is to walk you through how and where you can find some of this information online. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. 1 second. Okay, here it is. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So this is the EU-WOPs program dedicated web space. So if you scroll down a little bit, just keep in mind that this website is also available in French and in Spanish, and as well as the call package is also available in English, French, and Spanish. But I will show you where they are in a while. So here, what is the EU-WOP program? Well, of course, Julie already in depth explained what the EU program is about, but here, if you click here, you have the press release also in 3 languages, which at this point, of course, may not be very helpful for you, but it is very helpful if you want to share a very short overview of the program within your networks or potential applicants. So, well, just so you know that you have this, this resource. Now here, for newcomers, what are WOPs? This fantastic world of WOPs. So if you click here, you see that you can dive in what WOPs are. If you scroll down, well, you can check this video like that explains more in depth what WOPs are, and as well we have some testimonies from previous WOPs, and you know what mentor and mentee think about the WOPs approach, what were the results, etc., etc. And then at the end of this page, we also have a list of useful resources that will be expanded. We will be uploading some more useful resources. Here you can find some, for example, in here, some WOP case studies, some previous WOP case studies from different regions in the world. And also, if you click on more here we are. Okay, so we have a library where you can find many also documents that might be helpful. But here are highlighted some of the ones that we believe are most helpful for the potential applicants for this program. So basically, yeah, besides the WOP case studies and some of the fact sheets as well, and here we have some South-South WOPs, North-South examples, so this can also be very helpful. And then, so we have some publications that are basically guidelines on how to set up and start a WOP. So for example, you can dive in what preconditions you need, or what are the some of the matchmaking processes in terms of, you know, how to identify a partner, the diagnosis of common needs, well, and of course, as well, like going beyond when the WOP has started. So what are the main key performance indicators, for example. So you can find all of this in this publication, sorry. Just to mention that some of these publications and some of the ones that will be uploaded in the future, in the near future, are part of the BWOP project, that is the knowledge management component of the EU-WOP program, and this is done in coordination with IHE Delft. And we will, again, just to repeat that we will upload more of these BWOP publications. And what else? So, and we are very happy to see that Aqua Publica Europea, which is the European Association for public water operators, sorry, they recently published a very interesting and very comprehensive publication on WOPs. And actually, they showcase some of the WOPs in which APE's members have been involved in. And well, I've seen some of the questions related to COVID. Some of these WOPs were, and in fact, some of them even started in the midst of the pandemic. So this can also give a bit of light on how to start, on how to continue, on how to understand the WOPs approach in this very uncertain, very specific, and very difficult times. And on top of that, some of you may know that GWOPA has been convening with some partners a series of webinars within the Utilities Fight COVID campaign. So you can also here find, actually I'm going to click on it. So here are the webinars and some recordings of the webinars, etc. And here are at the bottom of the page, you have some of the outcome notes. And here you can also find specific examples of WOPs that had to adapt to COVID and some of the WOPs that started during COVID. So that might also be helpful in terms of, for future WOPs within the program. Okay, so going back to the main page. Okay, so here are the call documents, again in English, French, and Spanish. And here, when you click here, you can see where to send your proposals. And the deadline is the 15th of April, 2021. And as well as, so I don't forget, here on the EU-WOP webpage, you also have a very nice summary of the call package. What Julie already explained, but just a summary of it. And at the bottom of the page, you can also download, here they are, download the call for proposals package in the 3 languages. So what else? If we scroll down a little bit more, you can see also a summary of who can participate, why you should participate, the evaluation criteria. This is, of course, just an overview. So please, like after this webinar or workshop, please read carefully the full call package. But if you still have questions that have not been answered today, or that are not, you cannot find the answer in the call package, here you can click to the frequently asked questions, and here you can find quite a lot of questions that are already answered. But again, very importantly, we will make sure that all commonly asked questions here today and beyond today are included in this page. So again, we encourage you to check this website regularly. Well, finally, just to mention that, of course, if you cannot find the answer anywhere, please reach out to us. You can send us an email to info@gwopa.org. Again, as Julie mentioned, before the 15th of March, that is a deadline to submit questions, and we will be very happy to assist you. Okay, yeah, so we will have more webinars besides the one that we will have in French and Spanish. We will have more webinars on, some of them will focus on guidance, knowledge, and practical tools. So if you want to know when to know what kind of further and future webinars we're going to hold, please check the website. They will be announced in here, and you can also at the bottom of this web page, by the way, here's the timeline as well. At the bottom of this page, here you have a link to subscribe to our newsletter, because it will be through the newsletter that we will send news on the program, and of course notifications on future webinars. And very important, something that Julie already mentioned, but I wanna highlight once again, is that if any adjustments to the timeline or other aspects of the call, if there are any, they will be published on the website. So yeah, again, we encourage you to check it regularly, and also follow us on our social media channels. That you have the link to the social media channels in here at the top of the web page. And this is it also, by the way, very important, because I saw that there were some questions about if we were going to share the presentation or the recording of this webinar. Well, we will publish the recording of this webinar as well. And we will be able to find it on the webinar section of this website. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Well, if you have any questions, please again reach us to the info email, and we will also answer all the questions that may be unanswered today, but we will try to answer them all. So thank you very much for your attention, and over to you, Julie.
Thanks, Elisa. Thanks a lot. So you now know where to find further information. But let's now try to tackle some of these questions that have come up. Craig, would you like to list a few out? I've also done a bit of a quick run through and seen a few.
Yep, I think one interesting one for, let's say, the newcomers to the WOP practice.
Yeah.
They're asking about how potential beneficiaries and lead partners can find each other. How can they connect? So I think it would be good to maybe give some advice to them on where to look. And just a clarification about the length of the EU-WOP programme and the WOPs themselves, if they have to go the entire duration of the program, so the 36 months, or I guess the question is, can they be shorter or longer? Yeah, those are two that I noted as recurring.
Right. Okay. That's great. Those are good questions. So the question about duration, I'll answer first. As you know, there's an opportunity to extend on existing partnerships. So the idea is that those partnerships are not starting from scratch. They're already extending on something. And one of the ideal scenarios is that these WOPs also carry on for much longer than 3 years. Longer partnerships have greater success and bring further more benefits. So we are encouraging as long partnerships as possible. But what is being funded here is 36 months. It's 36 fundable months. So the activities that happen under the EU-WOP program have that kind of duration. And the more that they can link with pre-existing and future activities, the better. Shorter than 36 months, we would call it off at that. No, I think we wouldn't allow it to go shorter than 36 months. It's not really a possibility unless there's some very clear reason to, simply because of this the longer the better principle. And there's already a lot of let's say selection pressure for these WOPs, so that would be a limitation. It would have to be 3 years in duration. Before answering the other question, let me just answer a related question about the limits of the timeline. There were some other questions I saw about how they link to other financing sources and existing projects. So what is helpful is maybe just to think about like the activities that are being funded under this project need to be distinct and new and not obviously being attributed to another project that's happening at the same time. So the idea is just to kind of put a bit of a frame around, okay, this is what this project has funded before. This is what the EU-WOP program will fund, and this is, you know, where we hope to get funding beyond that period. So so just trying to isolate. Sorry, this is something, these things get a little bit confusing, but for example, there's the ongoing waterworks program where there's a lot of activity, a lot of WOPs that are happening. They're already being funded. For what the EU-WOP program might do, if you're applying to window 2, it might be an opportunity to expand the activities or to do activities that could not be funded under waterworks. So it's creating a new set of activities, but making the connection with that ongoing or existing project is perfectly acceptable and even, let's say, desirable, because it's sort of augmenting the possibility of good results. Okay, so that's those two questions. And then I'm going back to the first question, which I've already forgotten. Craig, what was it again?
Pairing and finding.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay, so GWOPA has in the past done quite a lot of brokering. So, you know, in trying to connect the different parties that are involved in this, we're not playing a very active role in this, because there are a lot of stakeholders that are very involved in this kind of brokering. So, but what we are doing is welcoming those who are looking for partners to submit forms. So we have a dedicated mentor form and mentee form for those who would like us to support in some way in finding a partner. Now we're doing that in a very open and neutral way. So basically anyone who asks, okay, for who are the mentees who are interested, or who are the mentors, or we will share with them. And that's obviously a requirement for sharing your information, is that you have the authority, you know, you're okay with us sharing information to those potentially interested partners, so that then you can do your own contacting. In addition to that, it's really important to note that there are a lot of other, you know, partner organizations, municipal networks, the water associations, of course, all of GWOPA associated WOP platforms, who are actively, you know, trying to kind of make some connections. Of course, financial institutions can also be very helpful brokers for this kind of thing. So take a look at other options as well for making these linkages. I hope that helps. Is it safe to take questions from the floor, or is that too risky?
Yeah, no, we can. Just to, there's a lot of questions about eligibility, and you know, a lot of them are case specific. So I guess we really refer people to the package documents.
Yeah.
And if the answer is not in the documents, of course, write to us and we'll get back to you on a one-to-one basis. But I think in the interest of time, we can't go case by case for each question on eligibility. If you agree, Julie.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. Just a couple. One question that seemed to me kind of more generally applicable was about if a consortium of public utilities could serve as a mentor. The thing is that we need a legal body to be the lead partner, and they need to be a service provider. Like it's fairly well defined, I think. They need to be a service provider. They need to have a particular legal status and so on. And they need to be the main lead partner. However, as indicated, additional partners can serve the role also as additional mentors, as co-mentors. So, you know, for the sake of the agreement, the lead partner could be one of those operators, and then the others could participate in the same role. They can play the same kind of role, but a supporting mentor supporting the beneficiary utilities, but officially participating as additional partners, if that makes sense. So they would appear within the MOU. Their roles would be very explicitly defined. But the actual partner, lead partner, would be one defined organization.
There's also a couple of questions about evaluation and audit. I don't know if we have a lot of detail on that now, but yeah, maybe a quick overview.
About the audit requirements. So, thank you for that question. I do believe that we have financial reporting on an annual basis from the lead partner. What is required for that, I know, is less heavy than what has been required in previous EU led programs. We are relying heavily on the capacity, like on our initial vetting process. So once we view the ability, the capacity of the lead partners to manage the funds, we look at their financial statements, we look at a number of supporting documents to confirm that they have the capacity. Then they report on those things, and it's not quite as intense in terms of providing every single receipt at every year, but of course they need to be maintaining the documents in really excellent order, as there will be an audit at the end of this. I really appreciate the frame of this question also, because the idea is very much, okay, how do we, we recognized in previous programs of this type, it was a real obstacle for new partners or small utilities, let's say, to get involved in this kind of thing, because it required almost like a structure of its own just to manage. And we are trying to balance this obviously the rigor and financial kind of impeccability with the fact that these are partner led utility-led partnerships, and so just not to be ridiculously demanding in terms of the time. So I hope that helps with more information to come, of course, in phase 2.
We could take some questions from the floor, Julie, if you're happy to do that.
Sure.
I guess if participants could raise their hand, and then I can activate their microphone. Meanwhile, we can maybe look at some more from the question and answer. Maybe a clarification about sanitation operators. I think there was a question somewhere. Are they eligible?
Are you asking the speaker? Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, there was one in the question and answer about eligibility of sanitation operators. So just to confirm that they can apply.
I think, do you have the name of that person?
I can't find it now. We have so many questions.
He's off brushing his hair, maybe.
Find it
okay.
now.
It's a bit scary.
Okay.
Okay, no, we can read other ones. I mean, it's just the idea is to if people want to appear on screen and show off their faces, then it's nice to shift it up a bit. But we can also
it was Babatope.
Ah.
Yeah, we have another question. Okay. Okay, we have a hand raised. Evans Akumu. Evan, I think you can speak now. Your microphone is activated. Yeah.
Thank you. My question was in regards to, are a small organization registered in a way that would qualify them as beneficiary partners?
Are they a service provider? Are they a water and sanitation service provider operating in a DCI country?
organizations operating within the water and sanitation as a thematic area, but not a service provider, but they work closely with a sanitation provider and the private sector?
Okay, they would be more a candidate for being an additional partner than a beneficiary partner. It sounds to me, which could be you know, and in the way that they're, for example, helping support you know, extension of services into vulnerable communities or whatever may be the specific role that organization might play. The utility itself, the beneficiary in particular, finds could be a useful kind of supplement to the project.
Thank you so much. That's well noted.
Thank you, Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. Okay, I think Baba Tope, your microphone is open. Hello. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
My question is, does this opportunity cover the sanitation sector? In a country where there are very few public providers of sanitation services, how do you define sanitation utilities? You know, in a country where small scale private providers, you know, NGOs that are providing sewage services, how do you define sanitation operators in the country?
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question. I mean, the municipality might be the way to go there. Probably, I mean, they have you know, a mandate to provide sanitation services, even if that may be very in reality, you know, not exactly the case, but that could be that would be the ideal counterpart there for that kind of partnership. But then this is where additional partners would be extremely useful, because knowing how many actors are generally actually involved in service provision of sanitation in many communities. So yeah, but I mean, look at the definition again of those who are eligible. Unfortunately, you know, some of these things may have to be looked at a case-by-case basis about, you know, what kind of organizations we're actually able to enter into partnerships with, but they really have to have a kind of clear function as a public service provider. So yeah, I hope that answers for now. Maybe we need a follow-up kind of discussion about that, but we really don't want, unfortunately, you know, I know that isn't so clear, but that we do encourage heavily, strongly sanitation proposals. So please, good luck. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't have any other, oh, yep, okay. Sarah Sandon.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to explore a little bit. So if we were working with public water service providers or water and sanitation service providers in African countries, and some of the less, you know, some of the least served communities actually are perhaps now being served by some private sector, essentially private sector entrepreneurs who are bringing water or sanitation services to, you know, for example, a slum community, but would work nevertheless with the public provider and be mentored, for example, or facilitated through an NGO. Would that be a sort of partnership arrangement that would fit your thinking for this opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it wouldn't be the principal one. Okay, I'm hoping I'm getting the full picture here, but I like ideally those kinds of private operators could participate as additional partners. So and that could be, clarified within the MOU, but the mentor, who would be the mentor in this case? Who would be the lead partner?
Probably the public sector provider with support from, an NGO potentially. So the public sector provider receives capacity support at the moment from an NGO to build the capacity, but they would need to be sort of the lead, probably, the provider, and could indeed be the mentor, for example, for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yes. So
to reach underserved communities, where often there are no services.
Yeah, no, I know.
Complicated to reach them.
Yeah, there are different dimensions to this. I know what you're talking about, and I by no means for sure I think the arrangement is an important one, and just trying to think if and how this arrangement would work there. We might need a little bit of a follow-up call on that, but I mean, essentially, are they peers? Are they actually peers? Like the core relationship should be between peers, mentor mentee. I can imagine there are a lot of situations where an organization is being supported by an NGO who has a lot of capacity, and that's a really great thing, but it's not necessarily, wouldn't qualify in this case as the core relationship. So if there can be a peer relationship onto which that additional relationship could add value, then that would work. Maybe we could have a bit of a discussion about this
or maybe so that the relationship perhaps could be between the service provider in two different authorities, for example.
Exactly.
And then the others be associates.
Yeah, granted that I still have to get clarity about this international thing. I mean, in principle, WOPs, it's great for domestic WOPs between one utility and another within the same country. I would just have to clarify first if it's possible within the same country for one, if they would be eligible for funds under this program.
Okay, I mean, they would be the obvious sort of way of scaling things, I would think.
Exactly. I mean, I think the answers are out there, but I just want to check first before telling you the wrong thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But there was a related question I wanted to raise, and I don't know if it came from you, Sarah, from somebody else, but it was about somebody asked about a private partner, but they were run by the municipality. Well, the municipality is eligible. I mean, and a municipality itself is an eligible partner. So, if the staff that they're using and they're doing it all along according to the not-for-profit principles are not for profit, then that could work.
So it could be like a local ministry and the water provider.
The idea is really that they are, exactly, that they're doing they have peer services. So this is, really the essence of the relationship. But yes, that should probably work. But we can have a follow-up for anything more specific if I'm not catching you.
Okay, I'll check in with others and then come back to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay.
So sorry to interrupt. We've got a few more hands raised. One is Teddy. You have the floor now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Teddy.
Hi, Julie. Good. Yes, I just want to find out, will the mentor be responsible to identify a mentee, or would GWOPA facilitate that process?
Yeah, so I mean, good question. I mean, this is so we're encouraging everybody to to reach out. There are different parties that can play a role of a sort of a matchmaker here. We're not, because of the many roles that we have in this program, we're not taking a really active role in that. But of course, it's a traditional role that GWOPA has. So we're happy to we're happy to kind of share. So what we said we would do is we're collecting forms. So those who are interested in being a mentor or mentee, we're not doing this for additional partners. That's a separate issue. Mentor and mentee can send us their introduction, and we will share with those who are interested on either side that information. So that's something that we're doing to try to facilitate that. And we're also, we're kind of exploring, seeing how much demand is out there, because we could also take it up a notch and try to have a big party and, big.
Yeah, I think just the concern around, especially if we have a situation where the mentor has to go and identify a mentee, we then have a situation where the mentee feels that this is going to be thrust upon them, this partnership is going to be thrust upon them.
Indeed.
The commitment then for the long term is going to be problematic. So it's going to be important that it's a demand-led and it's very clear what their roles and responsibilities along the lines of the WOP is going to be.
That's a really good point. I think that's really important. And that's why also, we do have this opportunity for mentees to express their interest and also to indicate what their areas are, what kind of support they might be looking for. So that does exist. We also encourage, we can also facilitate things on a bigger scale. So, working with the regional WOP platforms, for example, maybe I know AFWA, for example, is helping to sort of consolidate lists of potentially interested mentees. They could help then connect with others. But it's true. It's a really good point. This kind of mentor-led approach. I mean, we don't want to be. It's better if it comes obviously from the other direction. So all those who have networks of potential mentees are really encouraged to mobilize their interest in applying.
Good, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Teddy.
Just as a follow-up, the forms that Julie mentioned, I put the link in the chat, and you can also find them in the FAQs on the website. I think it's question 6. So please feel free to do that. Kevin Ogonda. Can you hear us, Kevin?
Yes, I've unmuted. You're getting me?
Can hear me.
You're getting me?
Yes, Kevin, we've got you.
Thank you. Now, I have just 2 areas I would need clarification on. One is on the timeline after the submission, the diagnosis period. How long does it take once it is submitted? And 2, what is being done differently this year in the proposals as opposed to other years? Because I've a couple of times seen this adverts and it ends at a particular stage. Is there a change? Because this year I'm seeing a lot of engagement, and if there's a change of track, that will be good, because it's been a very difficult proposal generally to submit. And lastly, does one apply to be a mentee or just a mentor, or is the application two-way? Because you can realize from the practice there are areas where you're so good at and there are areas where you're weaker. So yeah. Are you allowed to apply for 2 different things? Let's say you're very good at providing services in low-income areas, but you're very poor at managing land revenue, as an example. So are you able to apply for 2 different things? And in this application, will it be 1 document or 2 different documents? Thank you.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, so about the diagnosis, this will really depend on the case, and it's not being prescribed by the program. this is up to you. What we are recognizing in the evaluation and selection is that in many cases there will not be a very complete diagnosis done yet. I mean, that's often something that takes quite a long time with the partners together. So there's certainly space within the first period to really deepen diagnosis based on existing kind of knowledge of what the situation is. So that's really up for you to define. There's no, it depends on the scope and lots of other factors. So nothing prescribed there. The difficulty to submit this year, you're talking about the COVID in the COVID context? I'm sorry if I missed that point a little bit.
No, I'm talking on the other earlier calls, and it's something I've tried, not once, not twice, but then you submit, there's never feedback. You know, there's good pattern. Once you submit the brief before you get to the main document, feedback of failure of that particular concept or not, because there's always the form that is, there's always the first form giving a brief profile of the company. So that aspect where there's always a communication break. I don't know whether it's your system that gets jammed at that particular time, so that we have so many submissions, but we do not get to the tail end.
Okay, can you, yeah, great. Can you just cut your mic there? There's a lot of background noise. Yeah. So I don't know what you've been applying to in particular. We this is the first time we've had a call for EU WOPs. I don't know if you're talking about a call for proposals for other UN-Habitat initiatives, or maybe you can ask us about that separately. But for this program, we will aim to give as a response to all parties. I don't think we will elaborate, just because of the time and everything required. We won't commit to elaborating on the why, but I think it's useful for people to know, what the kind of feedback was, and because there's also maybe great potential for that WOP, but just not under this program, or it just missed the cutoff. So we would want to encourage anything that really made sense to go forward in one way or another. So let's see what we can do about that. We're kind of a small team to be committing to much, but I think it's really always good to be able to get feedback. On your question about the mentee situation, if you can be involved in different roles there. There are two different things. So there's the kind of the formal kind of roles that you play in the partnership. So each of those we need to have a beneficiary, we need to have a lead partner who can be in agreement with UN-Habitat and then can just administer the funds where they need to go. So those roles need to be fulfilled. After that, there are different, the dynamics of the learning and who's helping with what can be defined. It can be elaborated in the Memorandum of Understanding, which is the document that's kind of between the partners to sort of clarify where they what roles they're going to play. And so it might be defined within that there would be for example, a triangular situation where one mentor is helping on a specific topic, another mentor is helping another topic, or this mentor is helping this other mentor to help the mentee. Those dynamics are a little bit open, let's say, so long as it kind of goes with the general principles of peer support and so on. And the focus is more or less in the beneficiary location. But there's a bit of flexibility there. I'm sorry, I hope that answers, I know your question. If you feel like it wasn't answered correctly, then we can, or fully, then you can follow up with me.
Julie, I'm conscious of time. I think maybe we can take 2, possibly 3 questions maximum. So I will pass over to Victoria Iskova.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh. Sorry, Victoria, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone, thank you for useful information. And Julie, could you please tell me if the mentor, the lead partner, could be from the well-developed country, for example, from EU member country, and the beneficial partner could be from non-EU country, but from the developing country. I mean, it will be the different level of the development of water utilities, but it will be considered as a peers partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. So please take a look at the append. What's it called? Annex D, correct? Something like that. The eligible country partner lists. There are different lists. So the beneficiary partner has to be from one of the so-called DCI countries. So this is the EU approved list of possible beneficiary countries. And then the lead partner is either from Europe or from a DCI country as well.
Thank you. I already checked. I am talking about Ukraine. Ukraine is in the list of these DCE countries. And for example, if the lead partner will be from Austria, like or Czech Republic, it will be possible. Yes, it will be considered as peers partnership.
It's possible. It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible. I would only say, the only thing I would say, and I wouldn't discourage that by any means at all. In the tie-breaking criteria, we have emphasis on I think we have about lower, lesser developed countries, least developed countries. Sorry, of course, of which Ukraine is not, but I think there will be many in that category. So I mean, especially if you're showing like real need there, I think that's absolutely eligible.
Thank you for the answer. And just one thing, that I saw that the VAT could not be included into the expenses. Is it related to the, I don't know, purchasing of some goods or equipment, or for any expenses within the project?
Yeah, so that is true, that was raised by others as well. Let's be clear about the VAT. We're not asking you to not charge the VAT that will come on services or things that are procured that are eligible under those. We can't. That is okay. What we're saying here is that this is an agreement of cooperation. So we're considering as much as possible that we're all partners in this agreement, and we're contributing what we can. So nobody is to charge any VAT on their services. For example, if you're a staff, like a utility, that's charging at staff time, can't charge VAT on the staff time.
Yes, for sure. But for example, if it will be travels, even the tickets.
They include VAT, you can't avoid it, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for the answers.
And maybe lastly to Sankwe.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the insight. I'm a little bit confused about the financial flows. From the presentation, it is clear that the lead partner is the one who is going to act as a manager of finances, whereas the other partners also could receive up to, I think, 40% or 60% of the total cost I think requested, or the total cost that has been approved. Now, the question is, all these costs are approved or based on the activities that the mentee has projected as agreed with the mentor. So is the lead partner just going to manage and direct these finances on behalf of the mentee, or the lead partner will have to decide on the activities to finance and the activities not to finance? Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. That's a good nuanced question. So the the program and the projects and their budgets should be crafted collectively. First and foremost by the mentor and mentee. Those are the or mentor and mentees, as the case may be, or mentors and mentees. So those are the ones who really determine for the bulk of what needs to be done, and then they see how they might want to engage with additional partners that are not playing a mentorship role. But be aware that that we up to 2 of the additional partners can be. This gets a bit complicated, but they can be the 2 of the additional partners who are eligible for those financial transfers are additional partners. And in fact, that limit, the reason it's so high, up to 60% of the budget can be to these partners, or up to 100,000 per partner who are of eligible partners, is to accommodate these situations where there is co-mentoring happening. So this is a situation, for example, where there's one, there's the lead partner, utility has a bunch of capacity that they can help with other things, but they would like to engage another mentor who can support with maybe other areas, or maybe they're a local utility, so there's a kind of a south-south component, they're kind of more present and they can help in different ways. So having multiple mentors is not only possible but encouraged in this, and you'll see a few places in the selection criteria. It's this kind of arrangement which supports the capacity to do things in the longer term is privileged, prioritized. So then the it's not ideally that's all set out in the first in the development creation stage, where those will be distributed and that budget will be agreed by everyone. So it's upon that basis that we would enter into the cooperation agreement and oversee the actual use of that budget to the partners. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but I was trying to answer different aspects of your question. I hope it answered it.
So I guess we should start wrapping up. Julie, did you want to add anything that maybe you saw in the question and answer box that you noted? Just while you're thinking about that, again, we have lots of answers to some of these questions on the website in the frequently asked questions. Anything that's not clear, you can write to us at info@gwopa.org. And the recording of this session will be shared, and we'll take note of the recurring questions and add them to the frequently asked questions on the website. So yeah, stay tuned for lots more information from us. Julie.
Well, I don't have the questions and answers open right now, and so to what extent, I'll read the first one that comes up. What extent is an advantage to link South-South partners? The exact weighting of that particular aspect of things, I can't say, but for sure it has advantages. If you read through the different selection criteria and the objectives, it links with many things. It's about building, of course, capacity in the south. There's a cost effectiveness aspect, perhaps. There's less travel involved. There are a lot of advantages to such a thing. So for sure, it's a where appropriate, it's a smart thing to do. I mean, it's great to have more south-south partnerships. So this isn't always this old world vision of things. And that's for Willimin.
Okay, I think maybe we should wrap up here. I see people are leaving, and I think we've reached our time limit.
Can I ask? So Thomas is asking about the PWOs. What is he referring to? They're private water operators?
Yes. Yeah.
From being mentor mentee. So this has been discussed since the very beginning of this program. We try to enable private sector to be involved as much as possible. They're absolutely able to be mentors in this. They're just not. They are eligible as additional partners, as mentors. for the information. But they just cannot receive funds because our partnership agreements do not allow for such for transfers to predominantly private operators. However, there's been some leniency on that up to the 49%, so that there could be, so it makes it a lot wider than it previously was. So this is also a question of, when you work with a private partner, you have to go through procurement. So it's a very different kind of thing. There's openness within the program for private sector involvement, following the principles and everything else. They just can't receive a transfer. So that's the only limitation there. And they can't be the lead partner because then they would be getting a transfer. So I hope that helps. Sorry for just jumping in with that last answer on that. Many thanks, everyone, for your great questions. It's helpful, and we'll try to answer them all in turn. And please do always check and see if you can't find the answer yourself through the documents, so that we're not completely overwhelmed with questions. But and do reach out to partners, reach out to associations and others who might have answers as well. There are a lot of the WOP platforms that can be really instrumental in trying to in supporting. So please work with them, work with one another in this big, broad WOP community that we're all in. Thank you very much. Thanks, Craig, Elisa, and everyone for the moderating and support.
Yep. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.